Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Jessica Canellis, and I would like to welcome you guys to our webinar today, which is Purchasing and Inventory Control with Portus and continuing our Lunch and Learn series. If you guys have any questions, which you may or may not during the event, you can either put them down in the chat box and we can answer them during the webinar, or if you have any at a later date, you can contact any single one of us here, Jim Castellano, myself, or James Cooey, your made to manage person. So we're going to go ahead and kick it on over to Bob from Portus so we can get started.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Jessica. First thing we're going to start off with is just a little bit of a slideshow here before we jump into the quick demo, but I'm going to try to keep this as quick as possible so that we can focus on as many reports as possible. So a little bit of history on Portus. We started Portus back in 2010, so a little bit over 15 years ago. Our entire team comes from a manufacturing background, so we like to think that we've been in your shoes and we know what types of reports are most needed from an analytical standpoint. We've been building on numerous ERPs, but building on top of made to manage database since 2012. So that's kind of the longest running ERP system we've been working on. If we were to wrap up Portus in one long sentence, it would be a curated real-time analytics with continuous drill downs into more levels of detail delivered in an easy-to-use browser-based application. We're focused on two audiences, so one being an existing Portus customer, and we're hoping they walk away from this with a little bit of a maybe just an overall quick review of some key functionality that maybe they're saying they didn't know Portus could do that. Otherwise, we're looking for prospective customers, and we're hoping that they're going to walk away saying that, hey, I like what I see, I want to learn more, and they can go ahead and ask PeopleSense to organize a personal demo with Portus. From a webinar standpoint, once this is completed, we'll make sure we get a $25 Starbucks digital gift card sent out to each member that stayed on for the entire session. And right now we're at the webinar point, so the goal for today is answer one question. Did you see enough to warrant investing in a 1-hour demo? If the answer is yes, again, reach out to PeopleSense and they will coordinate something with Portus here and we'll get you guys in a demo. With that, we'll jump into Portus. So when you first install Portus at a customer site, the IT department's going to hand out a URL for that company to be able to access Portus. And when you first get into Portus through with your login credentials, you're going to come up to a series of tabs at the top. And that series of tabs has different reports that are going to show up on the left-hand side when you select on them. So there's dashboard, finance, operations, etc. So for today's session, we're going to be focusing on purchasing and inventory reporting. So we're going to be a little bit in the realm of POs and inventory reports and shortage reports, etc. So the first one I'd like to kick off is a PO log report. And when you run some Portus reports, you're going to see an options area up here. It'll have a default setting on it, and it'll also have a few alternative options that you can choose from. Or on some reports, you pick on it and it'll just automatically launch into that report. You'll see that as we go through this demonstration. So right now, it's got open POs only selected. I'm going to leave it there and run this, but you could go ahead and enter in a date range here if you were focused on maybe something, a couple quarters ago or a couple financial periods ago. You could go ahead and hit date range and put the dates in there and just know that you're going to get all classifications of quotes. So you're going to get open, canceled, closed, etc. But we're focused on open POs for this report. You'll notice that you're going to see on various screens, you're going to see an underlined blue hyperlinked, either a part number or a purchase order, etc. Anything that's blue and underlined, you can pick on and drill into it deeper. Just a quick shot of that. So I picked on the blue hyperlink and it opened up the detailed report for that specific PO. This is at the PO line level. So you can see the purchase order number, revision, line, and release. And then there's some purchase order attributes, so vendors, buyer information, some shipping information. But off to the right-hand side, you're going to see more of the detail for the each purchase order line. So the part number here and the general ledger account that it belongs to. And off to the far right side would be your ordered quantity, returned quantity, received quantity, accepted quantity, and a balance. So in this case, you got 420 on order. Nothing's been received against that yet, so your balance is 420. With the along with the quantities, you're going to see the dollar amounts. So this is the $1,827 was ordered, and the balance is still $1,827. And then it shows you a little bit of the date information over here. And the far right column is the first need date. That's actually generated by our proprietary MRP algorithm when you run the report. So it's going to be able to show you when the first need date is of that line item on the job orders. We're going to go into a purchase price variance report. This one here, I'm just going to leave the date set as default. This is a test database, so you're going to see some oddities in some of the dates, but this is a purchase price variance report. So if I just go ahead and select go here, I'm going to be able to see again a lot of the purchase order attributes at the beginning of this, and then it's going to show me my receiver numbers and lines and who actually received that line item. As I go off to the right hand side here, I'm going to see my receipt information. So you got a quantity of 40 that was received. It was received at $21.86 on that line item. And the standard cost in the system is actually $17.49. So the purchase price in this case was higher than what the standard cost was, thus netting you a $4.37 unit price variance, and it's in the unfavorable direction. So obviously if the purchase order price is less than your standard cost or equal to, then you're going to see a favorable variance over here on the right hand side. As we go through some of these reports, I'm going to show you various features of Portus as well. You'll notice these three dots that are at the top header section of each column. You can use those to select whether you want to do some sorting or filtering. So in this case, you could sort this ascending or descending. If there was already a sort on the page, you can simply clear the sort through this. You can also clear it and get back to the original filters and sorting by just rerunning the report. We're going to jump into some of the lowest level common denominators of materials related or purchasing inventory related items is the part number. Even going further, it would be at the location bin level. So we're going to go into the #1 used report by all our customers, and that's the part inquiry report. And the part inquiry report can be run by part or description. You don't need to know everything about a part number, so you don't need to know its entire part number name. It obviously starts out with a contains field here, and I'm just going to punch in a quick little partial part number, so 3587 PJ, and it's coming up and saying there's 87 items that have 3587-PJ somewhere in the part number. And I may say with these 87, I still don't know exactly which part I'm looking for, but I do know it's a connector of some sort. So I can go in here and filter on the description and say, show me all the ones that start with CONN, and then hit the filter button. And it's going to take that 87 records and change them to the 61 items that started with CONN in the description field. I'm going to go over to the third page here, and I've just picked a few random part numbers that have some good detail behind them, so I can show you a few things related to the part inquiry page. So if I drill into this 3587 PJ746 part number that has 13 on hand and 25 on order that I can see over here, I'm going to get the part inquiry report to pop up. And in this, it's ran like 10 different queries and scripts to go out and get a bunch of different pods of data brought back to us for analysis. So this whole top section here, general information, classifications, attributes, those are all, excuse me, all fields that you can find in your made to manage item master. And then the statistics over here is going back and digging out some information out of made to manage. So the last time the purchase order was received to get for this part number, last time this part number may have been issued, and if you do cycle counting, the last date that a cycle counting took place. Then down in the bottom down here is all the relevant information to this part. So your inventory on hand, again, this is at the location bin level. So if you had multiple locations storing this part right now, you'd see multiple records in here with a sum footer at the bottom totaling it. So in this case, we have 13 on hand. And off to the right-hand side, you're going to see any work orders that are containing this part. So here's an assembly right here, 3587 PA 294, that is looking for 22 of these, or for 22 parts, and it's using the 3587 somewhere in its bill of material. If this was a make job or a make part, you would see in this section here any open jobs for making this part. In this case, this is a purchase part. We can see here that there's a purchase order out there for 25 of this part coming in on 8/24 of 2025. And then down in the bottom section here is a where used. So this part can be used in a variety of different builds or assemblies here. And you'll notice off to the left, there's a approved manufacturing record section. If your company is an electronics manufacturing company, there's a little section down here for market availability powered by a third-party integrator. If I push this market availability button, it's going to go out and look everywhere through vendors anywhere that have this part number in their system. And you can see there's a variety of them here. There's RS Americas and Newark and Farnell UK, Conrad. All of these are real-time statistics of their inventory levels, pricing at different price breaks potentially. So I'm just going to pick on one of these part numbers right now, and you're going to see it takes us directly to their website, where at this point we could go ahead and make a purchase if we wanted to. Let this come up. You can see the different quantities that are on here, but this is all real-time inventory and pricing information for each of these vendors or manufacturers. I'm going to go back and run a shortage summary report for us. Now this report uses our proprietary MRP algorithm as well, and will return all sorts of useful data that we can take even deeper through numerous drills here. So you can see we can drill down into the job here, we can drill down into the part number, but off to the right hand side there's some component information. So we're going to drill or filter for one specific job here to just use as an example. Now in this particular job, you can see there's a build number of 11, and off to the right hand side this has a total of 74 components, and of those 74 components, all of them are in the shortage section, meaning they haven't either been received to a job or they haven't been issued to a job. And of those 74, here's the classifications of these. 48 are in stock, 2 are in quality control, 19 are on order and on time, none are on order and not on time. And then here's one other feature here, this little 3 dots right here. If you pick the 3 dots, it'll expand and show the entire screen. And then the last section here is not on order. There's 5 items here that are not on order for this, so you might want to dig into those and have a look at what's going on. So if I pick on the hyperlink, I'm going to see those 5 parts here. I'm going to see some information about them. You know, again, the build level was 11 for this. So if we focus on this middle one here, this must be using 4 per unit to have a total required quantity of 44. And of this 44, I can see there's 51 of them on hand, but only 6 are being able to be allocated to this job order. So if we want to take and pick on this part number over here, this will take us to that part inquiry page, and we can see the detail behind it. Here's the 51 on hand, and off to the right hand side here, I see that this job II501 has 45 of them being allocated to it, so that's netting you 6 remaining items that can be used for the job that we just filtered for, II952. Now there's some other things on here we can go through. There's notes bubbles or comments bubbles on a lot of different screens in Portus. There's an opportunity here to pick on this button and add a comment. And once you save that comment and close out of this report and rerun it, you're going to see that it comes up red. Red means that it's a comment that's been added in the last week. If it's blue, it's the comment was added beyond a week ago. And if it's white, there's no notes underneath it. So this allows you to enter any type of note here, and any Portus user that has access to that report is going to be able to see those notes. And if you hover over it, you'll see that there's a whole line of historical information there related to the notes. So there was a note put in there earlier, 1- testing, and now the second one's in there is 2- testing. Now, if we go back and take this job at a high level here, you pick on the job order number, you're going to be able to see all the detail related to that job order. The header section up here, the job hierarchy, if it had any subcomponents to it, and then your operation level information here. So if there was, multiple operations, you'd see them all listed here. The yellow one would be the operation that is currently being worked on. If you use the back button here, you can go back to the beginning of where you were in the report, or in this case, I picked it a couple times. It's going to take you right back to the main page. And you can just go ahead and select on a tab and get right back to the operations reports or finance reports. We're going to jump into some finance reports now, and we're going to focus on-hand inventory. So on-hand inventory, just what it says, these are all the items that are on hand in your facility at this time. And off to the right-hand side, it's going to show you a variety of costs. So standard cost, current rolled cost, and last actual cost. But if you wanted to do, again, sorting in here and wanted to see the total quantity on, or the items with the most quantity on hand, you can select a filter for this. Maybe you want to see this at the highest dollar value in inventory. So this one's showing that there's 1.3 million worth of product for this top part number up here. You'll also see date information in here, so you can see last issued, last received dates. And maybe you want to use this report to find slow moving inventory. So we filtered this in descending dollar value. Maybe you go in here and hit the issued and say, when was the last time this was issued prior to which ones have not been issued, since December 31st, 2021. I can go in here and put a filter on here, December 2021, and hit filter. And these are all the slow moving items that you would expect to see, or that were in your facility, haven't moved through or been issued or received since 2021. Another report that's similar to that is a days of supply. And days of supply defaults to 90 days of history, 90 days of future demand, and then just multiplies it by 2. But I'm going to look at it first by 360 days of history. And we're going to move off to the right-hand side here, and we're going to see some information related to cost and quantity. So this is, we're going to focus on this third item down here. There's 291 of these on hand. They have a per unit cost of $719, which equates to a $209,000 extended cost. Historically, because I picked 360 days of history, there's been 878 of these used. Based on 178 used from a historical standpoint and 291 on hand, it's going to be a days of supply of this part number of 119 days. And at that rate, your inventory turns are 3.03. Now, if we were to go over here and take that default setting of 90 days of actual history, 90 days of future demand, and then just multiply it by 2, it paints a little different picture. That same item, the third one down, we have the same 291 on hand, but in history over the last 90 days, they actually used 244. And now we see a future demand in there of 388. So it kind of looks like we're increasing our usage of this part. If you take those two, add them together, and multiply it by 2, you end up with 1,264 for an annual usage now. And based on 291 being on hand, annual usage of 1,264, that nets us an 83 days of supply and an inventory turn rate of 4.34. There's another one in here that's a commonly used one called excess material, excess inventory, and just go ahead and run it with the defaults. This lets you look at your on-hand and on-order inventory and match it against the MRP demands. And based on the data in this report, you can calculate the excess quantity on hand and the quantity on order associated with associated costs. So we're going to go over to the right-hand side of this report, and we're going to sort this by excess quantity on order. And I'm going to do this in descending. And I'm going to focus on just a couple of these lines in here to show you a little bit more about this report. So this third item down, it has a total quantity on hand right now of 25,000. And it's saying that I have 21,000 on order and a demand in the system of 2,500. So my excess quantities at this point are 25,000 minus my demand, 2,500, would net me 22,500 of excess inventory on hand. In addition to that, I have 21,000 excess on order. And then it'll show you the actual dollar values off to the right-hand side. But if you wanted to dig into that a little bit more by picking on the part number and then supply and demand, it'll actually show you and help you make some decisions here. In this case, we have 25,000 on hand. You can see the demands that are taken away from that, and it's netting you 24,000 here at the lead time line. And this lead time line means that on every part that has lead time populated in made to manage in the item master, it's going to show you where that product would show up if an order were placed today. So we're looking good all the way through here. We know we got excess. At the end of the report down here, you can see that there's a $21,000 PO written against it, and we still have 23,000 on hand for a net. And the demand, there's very little demand left to go. We could probably safely assume that we can cancel this PO altogether. And at the same time, we can probably go back in there and determine if there's things you want to do with the excess that are on hand, the 22,500. Maybe you can return some. I don't know if there's, what your options are at that point, but certainly you have a lot of excess inventory on hand. And down here at the bottom, there's a few other examples of that as well. You got 2,700 on hand. You got 10,000 more on order, and your demand is 2,500. So just taking the total on hand and subtracting the demand for that, you're still going to be left with 234. But maybe you feel more comfortable having 1,000 on hand or a safety stock of 1,000, but you could at least go in there and then reduce the 10,000 that are on order to something more in line, like 2,000 or 1,000 parts, and save some of your working capital. There's a few other reports at the dashboard side here. Supplier on-time delivery, and we're just going to set the days early to be unlimited. This will be based off of number of receipts. So on this screen, you're going to see the supplier on-time delivery across about 14 fiscal periods. And all these blue underlined hyperlinks here you can drill into. So this is the number of receipts on the first line, and then the percent on time. And let's say you see this 876 here that only have a 13.47% on time. You want to know more about it, go ahead and pick on the hyperlink, and it's going to give you the underlying data. And you can see in the middle here that you have your on time to the original date and on time to the latest date. So you can go through and find maybe there's some of the big ticket items that were problems, or maybe it's all tied to a specific vendor, but it lets you get line item detail analysis. Another one here is the on-time summary. I'm gonna go ahead and set the same criteria here of unlimited. Now this one here is going to show you a rolling 12-month, and that's going to give you fiscal periods detail off to the right-hand side. Again, you're going to see all your blue hyperlink or blue links that you can drill into to see the line item level data. But this is basically just showing you that you had 850 receipts in fiscal year 25 period 8, and of those only 127 were on time, netting a 14.94 on time percentage. And you can, maybe you want to do some filtering on here and see which ones were the worst. You can sort this ascending. Oops, I already sorted one, sorry. Let's clear some sorts. Try this again. So maybe you want to see your worst performing items from an on-time percentage in period 8. Go ahead and sort that by ascending order, and you're going to see that there's bunch of records in here that you can do further analysis on, but now I filtered it so far I can't get to one that's a poor rating. But there, you can filter this and do any type of filters and sorts on here as you want. Then there's the on-time delivery detail. And this one, I'm just going to go ahead and hit go. This is just kind of looking at your supplier on-time delivery detail. You can see it at the purchase order level. Again, you can sit and drill into this through part number drills. You can see it all at the receiver level. And then you're going to see over here what your lates or on times were. I think there's one more here I'd like to show, supplier summary. This is going to show you a rank. So this has got your vendors ranked in order from 1 to infinity, and that's going to be based on their performance of receipt by quarter. So there's a bunch of different information in this as well. So receipts by year, accounts payable. You can see you got your what's current, what's past due, the total accounts payable, what's your received goods not invoiced levels at, and then open POs. You can see your open dollar amount, the number of POs. In this case, it's 147 POs open with 1,427 lines open and a value of $1.12 million. And a couple other features here. Almost every report screen that you call up, you're going to see an Excel icon in either the upper left or upper right hand corner, and you can pick on those and it's going to export an actual bona fide Excel sheet. And when you open up that Excel sheet, you're going to be able to go ahead and do filtering, or not filtering, add columns in there. Maybe you want to add some formulas in of your own, then you can save it and hand it off to other individuals or groups. But yeah, you can go in here and you can add columns together. Maybe you can subtract some dates, whatever you want to do. It's an actual Excel sheet. That's kind of all I had planned to cover through this, but there's a lot of different reports pertaining to purchasing and materials. If you liked what you saw so far, I'd say reach out to your PeopleSense contacts and they'll get in touch with us. We can set up a 60-minute demo. We can do it with a larger audience from your company, and we can be more focused on some of the reports. We can spend time on, a lot more time on some of these individual reports if they're of importance to the group that you have on there. We've also done a couple other times. We've done demos where it's multiple demos, and maybe you focus on an operations team first, bring more attendees in from an operations standpoint, and then follow that up with another group from finance too. So certainly you can reach out to PeopleSense and coordinate that. Other than that, thank you for joining us today and going through Portus. I'll hand it back to Jessica.
Yes, thank you, Bob, and thank you everyone for coming today, and we hope to see you all next week for our final session for our Lunch and Learn, which is going to be about advanced supply chain and MRP. But again, thank you all for coming today, and thank you, Portus, and I hope everyone has a good rest of their day.
Thank you, Jessica.